Hello, this is Kathleen Jordan of Source One, back to continue our podcast series that discusses the working relationship between sourcing and marketing. In part one of this series, we discuss some historical and recent trends that bring us to where we are today in terms of sourcing having a direct relationship with marketing. It's important to know how far these two parties have come in order to understand how they should work together moving forward. There's no question that sourcing can provide value to marketing, but a rapport certainly needs to be developed before discussing the true working relationship. And today, during part two of this series, I will discuss some of the elements to building a successful relationship between sourcing and marketing. Whether you are a CFO, a CMO, VP of marketing, director of strategic sourcing, whatever your role may be, if you are tasked with overseeing the working relationship between these two departments, there are a few key factors to be mindful of. These two departments, they operate very differently, have very different goals, and a different way of thinking. And for the most part, what we're talking about is a qualitative mindset versus a quantitative one, revenue-focused versus cost-focused. But that's okay. Even though marketing and strategic sourcing have different approaches to achieving their very different objectives, they ultimately complement one another. In getting the relationship started between sourcing and marketing, sourcing must consider marketing as its client. And sourcing must also consider themselves marketing's support team. And getting these two departments to work together is an ongoing process that must always be centered on three key objectives. The first objective, strategic sourcing must learn marketing's culture. The second objective, strategic sourcing must educate marketing on the benefits that sourcing can deliver. And the third key objective is strategic sourcing and marketing must focus on building trust between one another. So let's talk about the primary objective a little bit more. Strategic sourcing must learn marketing's culture. The two departments sometimes do not speak the same language. Marketing does not care about cost savings. Instead, they care about ROI, an increase in sales, and strong agency partnerships. Sourcing must understand this and marketing terminology in general and what's truly important to the business unit. Cost cutting is a term that should be removed from sourcing's vocabulary altogether when working with marketing. Instead, sourcing is there to help marketing optimize its budget. The second objective, strategic sourcing must educate marketing on the benefits sourcing can deliver. And why is this important? Well, marketing needs to know when to get sourcing involved. What sourcing should make clear is that they will not make any creative type decisions that relate to the overall look and feel of the campaign, but they're rather there to implement strategies that will improve marketing strategic relationships, overall operations, and drive budget and cost efficiencies. And so strategic sourcing should be viewed as an in-house service that supplements marketing's team. And building trust, the third objective. If marketing is hesitant to give sourcing a seat at its table, it may make sense to start small in terms of getting sourcing involved in marketing spend categories. And what I mean by that is the approach, marketing's preference may be to approach the more tactical spend categories first. And this may help marketing understand how sourcing operates and vice versa. So the best starting point for sourcing to begin supporting marketing and earning the party's trust may be to focus on the more tactical spend areas such as print materials and promo items, and then gradually embed itself into other decision-making processes and strategic relationships. One of the most important messages that sourcing should also relay to marketing is how sourcing can operate as a flex resource for any ad hoc requests and initiatives. If sourcing can demonstrate its ability to be flexible and adapt easily to change, then marketing will be more receptive to the idea of working together. And in addition to that, strategic sourcing must also be willing to customize its solutions and processes to be aligned with marketing's expectations. And this, again, is all about flexibility, but it really relates to the overall sourcing process and whether or not it makes sense to conduct an RFI, followed by an RFP, followed by on-site pitch presentations, etc. Sourcing should allow marketing to offer up their input on how sourcing approaches a particular sourcing event and be open to feedback from marketing on areas of improvement. And in turn, sourcing can then eventually offer up its own input on how marketing approaches certain scenarios as it relates to agency relationship management and things along those lines. So we just talked through some important considerations for building a successful relationship between sourcing and marketing. We specifically covered how sourcing needs to employ certain processes that are mindful of marketing's need for flexibility. And so in part 3 of this series, I'll talk a little bit about a particular sourcing engagement that applies to marketing, what we call at Source One the agency search or agency pitch process. And we'll talk about how sourcing can tailor its RFP process as it relates to that type of sourcing engagement to really best serve marketing's interests and overall objectives. And so we look forward to sharing some insights into how strategic sourcing can support marketing by implementing a flexible process for conducting agency searches and reviews and onboarding agency partners to support a particular brand's campaign. We hope you'll tune in for part 3. This is Kathleen Jordan with Source One signing off until then, and we appreciate you listening in today.